Anyone against? The motion stands for the minutes to be approved. We have the staff updates. Kate? Or Ben?
Just an update on the Fancher demolition by neglect case. There's actually no update since the last meeting that we have. The court hearing is scheduled for Wednesday, so we'll report back after that.
Okay. So you'll notify us individually or just?
I'll send an email.
Send an email. Thank you. Kate, do you want to discuss any of the administrative approvals? No? Okay, then we'll go to public hearing, case 668, St. John the Evangelist Catholic Church.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen so that you guys can see the plans. It looks like Jay is in the lobby. Jay, are you there? Okay, we'll go ahead with the staff report and maybe he will unmute himself later. All right, I'm going to share the screen. Okay, so this is case number 668, which was continued from our last meeting in February. The applicant returns to the commission with revised plans for a new single-family home, which will serve as the rectory for the Catholic Church. The church did receive a special exception for the use of this building as a residence at the March 14th meeting of the Planning Commission. The applicant presents revised elevations for consideration. The proposed plans are the Southern Living Bellamy Place 1878 plans with a few modifications. After discussion at the last hearing about the proposed front gable, the applicant returned to a design that more closely aligns with those original plans and now proposes a front shed dormer. Other changes from the prior application include the use of asphalt shingles on the front porch rather than the previously proposed metal, the addition of 2 functional windows on the left elevation rather than the proposed false windows. As noted in the design guidelines, the design of a new building is critical to preserving the character of a historic district. The new building should contribute to that character by respecting the location, design, materials, and other character-defining elements of the existing structures within the district. As noted in the prior staff report, there are several elements of the proposed plan that do comply with these recommendations, including the proposed building location and setback, the proposed orientation, and the proposed materials. Other elements are not as easily compatible with the existing buildings in the district. The design guidelines caution that a new building should be seen as a product of its own time. To reproduce a historic building or to copy exactly a style from the past creates a false sense of history. By relating to the existing buildings in the environment and being of its own time, a new building shows a district's evolution just as the existing buildings show its past. The plan evokes a type of coastal cottage that's not reflective of Oxford's architectural history. The applicant has made several changes that help the building better fit into the district compared to the original plans. They've changed the previously proposed louvered foundation to a brick veneer, and they're proposing an asphalt shingle roof rather than the metal. And you can see all those changes reflected in the updated drawing. The massing and detailing of the proposed building, particularly the shed dormer and the front porch that span the full length of the front elevation, are not typical in the historic core of Oxford. However, this plan is better than the previous proposal by the applicant that included a front gable that was not successfully integrated into the building's design. In this case, a balanced overall design is preferable to the previous design that featured detailing better meant to fit in with Oxford but didn't have proper scale, massing, and proportion. So staff is recommending approval of the COA with these updated plans. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have about the staff report. I'm not sure, Josh, are you? Okay, do you want to come up?
I can't if necessary.
If anyone has questions for Josh?
Big improvement over last month.
Yeah, we appreciate you listening to our comments. Thank you. It's a nice looking building. Does anyone have anything they'd like to say or address from the last meeting that we had to the current design? Then is everyone in agreement? I'd like a motion to approve the COA.
So moved.
Jolie moves. Do I have a second? Second. Luke seconds. Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion stands. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Then case 669.
Okay, we'll start with the proposed site plan. Okay, so this is case number 669, 1431 South 10th Street. The applicant requests approval to remove existing additions on the side and rear and to build new additions in place of existing and to extend the existing front porch. 1431 South 10th Street is listed as contributing in the South Lamar Historic District. It's described in the Historic Resources Inventory Survey as a 1-story, 5-bay frame, double-pile cottage with minimalist traditional influence built circa 1935. While minimal traditional style buildings are not the predominant style in our historic neighborhoods, there are several examples throughout the South Lamar District and a few on this street. The style typically features the forms of traditional eclectic houses, but without their decorative detailing. Many of these houses were built immediately before and after World War II as entire neighborhoods, like we see here with Avon Acres, or as infill into existing neighborhoods like the subject property. So, I'm sure you noticed in the staff report, we broke down the exterior changes with relevant portions of the design guidelines. The first is to replace exterior materials. The applicant proposes to remove the existing siding and install hardy wood grain siding. The applicant also wishes to install hardy shakes in the front and rear gables. The design guidelines recommend that the size, texture, surface finish, and other defining characteristics of exterior materials are as important as the type of the material itself. Use materials that are common to the district, and the materials used should be appropriate to the architectural character and building type. Hardy siding is frequently approved by the Commission for renovations in historic districts, providing that the new hardy matches the texture, application, and dimensions of existing. The applicant should take care to match these characteristics in the application of the new siding. So staff is recommending that a smooth finish be used rather than the proposed faux wood grain. The proposed shakes are not appropriate, as the design guidelines recommend against changes that create a false appearance or sense of history. The use of shakes in the proposed manner are not typical for the age and style of the building. Additionally, adding a brick veneer or skirt to the existing foundation is not appropriate to the style of the building. The next item is extending the existing front porch. Why don't I go to the proposed elevations? Let's see. The applicant proposes to bring the front gabled porch forward about 4.5 feet. The design guidelines recommend against attaching a new addition so that the character-defining features of the historic building are obscured, damaged, or destroyed. They also recommend that original entrances with their associated components and detailing should be maintained and repaired, and that removing or radically changing entrances and porches, which are important in defining the overall historic character of the building, is not recommended. So the commission should consider if the removal, if the extension of the porch is appropriate, and also if the removal of the existing front door to install a window is appropriate. Though that door leads into a bedroom, and anecdotally, according to the applicant, it has always been a bedroom, removing that door gives an appearance that there's no front entry to the house. The applicant included a photo. There's actually there's two doors right next to each other on the front elevation. I don't know that that was included in the packet. I think Timothy emailed it to me, but we can pull that up if it is of interest. The door that has functionally acted as the front door is directly adjacent. So like when you're looking at this new window, the door is on the side elevation directly next to that. And that actually does lead into the living room, and that door is proposed to remain. It's just not visible on the front elevation. And you can see that on the floor plans. Remove the existing side and rear additions and build new additions. The applicant proposes to remove the existing additions on the right side of the building, the existing rear additions, and the existing shed in the backyard. The demolition of the existing additions are acceptable. They're not significant architecturally and appear to be in poor condition. The design guidelines recommend to design new additions to replicate the scale and rhythm of features of the historic building, use similar height lines, and make new window and door openings retain the general size and rhythm of the openings on the historic building. The new additions are scaled appropriately to the contributing resource and are also located correctly. They're located on non-primary elevations. They're compatible in materials, design, roof form, and proportion. So that was a lot to take in. I know that staff is recommending conditions, which I'll read out in a moment. The bulk of the proposal, which is removing the existing rear additions and installing new additions, which is the biggest part of the project, it meets the design guidelines. So these are, the staff recommendations are more, they're smaller items, basically. Staff recommends approval of the COA with the following conditions. That smooth hardy siding is used rather than the proposed wood grain, that no brick veneer or border is installed, and that vertical lap siding on the main house is installed to match the dimensions and application of existing, and that no cedar shakes will be, well, I put cedar shakes, that no hardy shakes will be used, and that the front porch will not be expanded and the existing gable vent will remain. So I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have about the staff report. Timothy Garner is here to represent the applicant.
So you eliminated as one of your conditions not removing that front door.
That's what I'm suggesting. Well, no, I didn't make that a condition because I thought they had a good point that that door goes into a bedroom.
It's two right there together. It seems
Right,
like
and the window they're
that was
proposing
never
is appropriate.
original.
I just didn't feel right not pointing it out, but yeah.
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Garner, would you like to answer any questions or add anything to what Kate?
Sorry, so much stuff up here.
The only thing that would be the smooth siding. That's not, we can definitely accommodate that. The hardy shakes, it just gives a visual appearance and some dimension to the elevations. And then the front porch extension, right now, with there being two doors, you really can't put anything on the front porch. It's not usable. You can't sit out there. So that's why we extended it out, so they can utilize that front porch. And then the brick skirt that we're proposing, right now it's just exposed cinder block, and we just didn't feel it was visually appealing. So that's why we recommended doing a natural brick border around the base.
Would you state your name for that?
Yeah, Timothy Garner, sorry.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Garner? So, Kate, the main thing that we're voting on would be what? Would you redo that?
Sure, you can choose to approve the COA as is or with staff conditions. Those are your two options. Or with other conditions as you guys see fit after discussion.
Okay.
So is the front porch, as they propose it, just an extension?
Just an
We're
extension.
Pushing out exactly what's already
Exactly, the
there.
gable will remain. We'll extend the columns out.
Does it fall in your setback more or less, or is it pull out of it, or?
They actually would not need a variance to do that based on because the front setback in the conservation overlay is based on your neighbors, and they would not be coming forward of any neighbors with that change.
Do we have any of the neighbors here to?
No, well,
We do.
okay, cool.
There's a lot of 10th Street people today.
Yeah, every case this week.
On Front Street. Did y'all get together and decide this?
We have no objection.
I assume that's
I would
pending
think
their
that the
support.
front porch be extended to make it where you can sit and wave at everybody going by is not necessarily a bad thing.
Does anyone have anything to add to that?
This matches sort of the style of the Horan house across the street?
Correct.
Okay.
The brick, I don't really have an issue with either, because the cinder blocks do look not finished, not that great. On the pictures they submitted anyway.
It could be a lot better with the brick.
Yeah.
So the brick and the porch, we have agreement on. And then the rest of the COA is presented. Is everyone okay with that?
So the porch and the brick veneer were separate items on staff conditions. So I would, if you want to keep the smooth, hardy siding, and that the siding is installed to match the dimensions of existing without the cedar shakes, that would be items 1 and 3.
Okay.
Or you guys could discuss if you do want to allow the cedar shakes. Sorry, I keep calling them cedar shakes. They're not cedar. They're hardy shakes.
They look like cedar.
Okay, I do think that the hardy looks better. I agree with that, and we have agreement on the brick and the porch being extended.
Yes.
So is there anything else that anybody would like to add to that? And you're in agreement with these
Yeah, absolutely.
recommendations? Okay. And none of the neighbors have a problem with that, obviously? Do I have a motion on the COA as presented with the brick, the extension of the porch, and using the hardy plank? Do I have a motion on that? Luke, do I have?
Second.
Joel, second. Everyone that approves, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone not approve? Then your motion's.
Great, thank y'all.
So that's right.
It was Luke and Joel.
Okay. So that was what shakes, right?
Was that condition number 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. No. So, with the smooth,
Right, smooth.
but I didn't hear 3.
So did that motion include using the shakes or not using the shakes?
Not.
No.
Not. Okay, great. So that means okay, thanks.
have
Just for the record,
One,
yeah.
two, I think it's 1, 2, and
Smooth
4.
siding and not
Right.
all.
Okay, great. So we will move on to the shop house.
Yes.
Okay, for our one item that's not on South 10th Street, we're going to talk about the Shaw House, which a lot of you have a long history with. Let's see, we'll start with the existing photos. So, case number 671, is that right?
Yes.
671.
Yeah, I just put A for some reason. Okay, case number 671 regarding 1701 Jackson Avenue East, also known as the Shaw House. Some people call it the Shaw Kennedy House. The applicant requests approval to build a new one-story addition at the rear of the property. The house is described in the Historic Resource Inventory Survey as circa 1860, two-story, 5-bay, load-bearing masonry, Greek Revival Center Hall house. It's listed as contributing in the North Lamar Historic District. And a non-original side and rear log cabin style addition was removed from the back of this house with the approval of the commission in 2019. So these photos you're seeing are current for each elevation that the applicant provided. The proposed new addition is attached to the rear elevation of the house with a narrow hallway addition. The footprint expands once it's removed from the massing of the original house to include a bedroom and laundry addition and a garage. Exterior materials include brick veneer, painted lap siding, and glazing, particularly the glass walls on the connector hallway. The main massing of the new addition will feature an asphalt shingle roof like the existing house, while the connector and the garage, which are both a lower slope, will have metal roofing. The Oxford Design Guidelines offer ample recommendations about adding on to existing historic buildings. An addition is considered successful as if it preserves significant historic materials and features, preserves the historic character, and protects the historic significance by making a visual distinction between what is old and what is new. The proposed addition is minimally connected to the historic resource and does not obscure any character-defining features. As you guys can see on that rear elevation, the area that it's going to be connected to has already been altered with those previous additions. It's not visually disruptive and does not mimic exactly the appearance of the original building. The design also makes use of a hyphen, which is recommended in the guidelines, and also was a big topic of discussion the last time a plan came before this commission for the Shaw House. The design is successful as it's located on an elevation that's not character defining and it's appropriately scaled to the existing structure, and the proposed materials are appropriate based on the recommendations of the design guidelines. So staff recommends approval of the COA as proposed. Jonathan Maddox is here, if you guys have any questions for him, to represent the applicant. He's the architect.
Does anyone have any questions for Jonathan?
Great job.
It is. And it can't be seen from the street, which is good.
I forgot to add it online.
Does anyone want to add anything?
I think it looks great.
You good? Do I have a motion to approve the COA for the Shaw House?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Everyone in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion stands. Good job.
We're excited.
Feels like the end of an era.
And then we have case number 672, which is 10th Street. So, is Kate gonna go over it?
Okay, case number 672, back to South 10th Street. This case concerns 1420 South 10th Street. Here is the site plan. We'll go to some existing photos. The applicant requests approval to build a new addition. Back to minimal traditional, the existing house is described in the Historic Resources Inventory Survey as a 1-story, 5-bay frame H-plan cottage with minimalist traditional influence, built circa 1940. The house is listed as contributing in the South Lamar Historic District. The proposed new addition will be attached to the existing rear addition. It kind of sits in between the house and the existing rear addition. The proposed materials and windows are to match existing. The addition will have a metal roof, which will differentiate it from the main contributing structure. The design guidelines recommend to design new additions to replicate the scale and rhythm of features of the historic building, use similar height lines, and make window and door openings retain the general size and rhythm of openings on the historic building. The new addition is scaled appropriately to the contributing resource. It's compatible in materials, design, roof form, and proportion. So staff is recommending approval of the addition. And Jonathan Maddox is also representing the Freemans, so if you have any questions for him.
And do we have anyone, we have people around the neighborhood on this one, correct? Does anyone have any questions for Jonathan? Jonathan, you've got a lucky day. It's a good day.
I'll take it.
Do I have a motion to approve the COA as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The COA stands.
Aaron?
And then I understand we have a complimentary review.
We do. Kate, just make a clarification about the online's correct. We just printed an outdated version.
Yes, my bad. I printed an outdated version of the agenda that did not have the complimentary review. We're gonna have a complimentary review for House also on South 10th, and I'm sure you guys saw that case file, which has been online since last week. So.
All right, I'm gonna cut out. I'm gonna cut out. See you.
So, as this is a complimentary review, no action will be taken. This is so that the applicant can get feedback from the commission on their proposed plans. And as such, staff does not take a position generally on complimentary review, so I provided you guys a report with some details on what they're proposing and relevant design guidelines references. So here is the existing elevations, and then you'll see that the applicant is proposing 2 new additions that flank the main residence. A new 2-story rear addition. They're proposing to add a new circular window above the front door, to change the existing front door opening to an arched opening, the installation of a new retaining wall, the front, sides, and rear of the property, which we saw on the site plan, to remove the existing front awning and iron supports, and to locate a meter on the front elevation of the existing building. So I'm gonna let the applicant's designer, if you'd like to come up.
Okay, what is the address?
It is 1425 South 10th Street. So it's right across the street from the Freeman's house that we just,
Cardigainer's old house.
yeah. And I can go to any pages in the packet you'd like.
Okay, perfect.
May I have your name again, please?
Yes, my name's Amy Catherine Wilson,
Okay.
and I'm a residential designer for Russ and Kate McNeese. And we wanted to come today because we didn't want to move forward with a full set of plans if there were going to be some issues here. So there's several things that we probably need to point out today, so that we kind of have all the answers you need for the next meeting. I'm gonna start with what we want to add and what we want to change. On the site plan, you have that, right?
I do.
Okay. The first thing that we noticed on the site plan is the driveway is very difficult to access when you're headed north. That angle is so sharp, they have to actually go down the street, turn around, and go back in the opposite direction. And then the carport is actually under the house, and it's really small, and it's, could you get your car in it? Okay. They could barely get a car in it. On one side, it is an actual garage, and on the other, right beside it, is the old garage that they converted to a bonus room. And so we are proposing to demo the driveway, and we're actually gonna renovate that basement into either a kid's room or a guest suite or something. And what we would like to do is move the driveway up. There's a large retaining wall, so when you turn off the road and go down the driveway, there's a big retaining wall there also. So we're proposing to add a carport on the opposite side of the house and move the driveway so that it's directly off the street and it's a straight front-loading carport. And you can see that on, I think we have a sketch for the, do we have a sketch for, okay. Okay, yeah, you can see it there. That one at first we were proposing a garage, and Ben suggested that we not have a door and open it up a little bit and have more of a carport instead of a garage. So the next sketch, we actually just left the door off, and we would open it probably on 2 or 3 sides. But the main question is, you know, are you open to a front-loading carport and letting us demo the existing driveway?
So the carport would be facing the street. You would see that from the street.
Yes.
Have you explored trying to, on those 2 additions, it's kind of taking a cute, small 2-story cottage and making it real symmetrical and kind of, I don't know, a little bit grand for what it is. Have you explored trying to put any of those additions behind the house? Or pushing them back away from the front line of the house at all? Or are you set on what you've got there?
So we did, actually our first sketches that we went through I went over with the owner, we were adding more on the back of the house, but to add the spaces that they wanted, we were basically kind of doubling the existing part, and it was maybe one rectangle behind another. And we just really didn't like the floor plan and how it was blocking some of the light coming in the back of the house to the kitchen. And so that's when we started exploring making this house symmetrical, and adding the garage on the right and the master suite on the left. And then that opened up the back so that we can have a big back porch overlooking their backyard. Whereas when we were putting the master in the back, we didn't really have much of a porch or, a place for them to hang out. But the other thing that we did like about this elevation is when you look at do you have a photo of the front of the house?
I think so.
Okay. So the existing home, in my opinion, the details of the home are not really significant. And so when I look at the home, and I like to remove those shutters and remove the front entry and work with that existing structure, which we actually both like. So we wanted to maintain the stucco, which it's actually on poured concrete walls, and the iron windows. And what we wanted to do is to kind of explore, it is a modern style home, but we really wanted to add a few more details to give it more of a Spanish colonial style, still with the modern twist to it. And that's when we started playing with, okay, well, if it's going to be Spanish, we need some of these arches, we need, we're gonna continue to keep the low pitched roof. So we're not really changing much to the center of the house except the front entry.
I have a question. When was the original house built?
We say 1940s.
It looks like an Art Deco from late 30s, early 40s. And so that would make sense, I think, of the shutters and the spears, which I'm going to speak as a longtime resident of Oxford and anticipating some emotions about even the moon shutters. We've spoken earlier about iconic homes in Oxford, and I would say that this is one of those. With the Art Deco style. And so I sort of resist the push to the Spanish with the arches, because I don't see a reference to an arch in this Art Deco style.
So would you be opposed to the porthole window, even though that is more common for Art Deco?
Right. No, that looks more like that, what is it, the steamship reference, and I think that's great. I love that. Jolie mentioned that her daughter calls it the moon
house.
Yeah, and it's a landmark, right, for that, so. Just throwing that out.
Another issue to consider with the additions is that the front build-to line is going to be that front elevation of the house. So you would need, I'm not sure if it would be supportable to have a variance to come forward.
That's right.
So that's another item in play currently.
So when we started designing the addition, I I lined up these two wings with the existing front column, which is a metal column. And since, after that, we talked to Ben and Kate, and they actually said that that is not where the front setback would be. It is the actual facade of the home. And so if we were to have these wings come forward, we would have to get a variance.
Have you looked at other options for the front-facing garage to not be seen from the street?
Well, we can't go around the right side of the house because there's not enough space. And we did think about going through and sort of make it a portico-share and then have the actual garage towards the back. But it would take some more retaining walls and some more site work in the back. We didn't want to turn once we got back there, because then again, that's what you would be looking at the garage when you're sitting on the back porch. So we were trying to avoid that.
I kind of agree with Blair in that the style of the house, it seems like you're deviating so much that you're making it something that the house is not supposed to be. And it would be lovely if you could work with what you and your client would like and still keep the integrity of what the house is, the style of the house.
So if we did, so what I'm hearing is you're more wanting to eliminate some of these arches. And so if they were all square or rectangle, would we have a better chance with the current design that you're seeing here?
I think leaning into historical, Art Deco, referencing some of those older designs. I mean, when you pull up to this house on that magical property, it's just beautiful. And you have the balcony that comes from the old master bedroom. That's a singular vision in Oxford of architecture. And so just maintaining some of that, the integrity. I don't think we have many Art Deco houses. We've got the Flamingo apartments, but do we have many of these?
The Flamingo is definitely the most recognizable one, and that and this house both lean into sort of like a streamlined, modern part of Art Deco, with the stucco and the those details. So I think the Flamingo is the only other notable example.
Which makes it all that more important.
Yep.
So I think what we are trying to say to you is that with the style of the house being rare for Oxford, that we would like for you to work with that.
Right.
And see if you can't, with your client, come up with what he would like that would work with that style.
Okay, I think that's all good advice. And we'll definitely talk through all of that. Did you have any questions about well, I guess I should back up a little bit. Do you see any red flags about demoing the existing driveway and moving it up to the main level?
I don't, and I understand the problems that the owner would have with trying to get in and out of that space.
So it's no longer a parking area, it's again, once again, yard.
Right, and I think, and if the children's area would be down in that basement area, which is the existing garage, and so we would, try to make a courtyard and some fence. And so, having the carport on the main level, it helps them a lot, of course, with unloading and groceries and that sort of thing. But as of right now, the place that it works the best is on the right side, where it's front loading.
Does
So would
anybody?
that be acceptable to the commission if it were not pushed back, but were flush with the front elevation, the front carport?
Did you say it would be open on 3 sides, or that's what,
I mean,
I
I
see
would.
a door, so I'm asking.
Right, so we had talked about eliminating the door, and obviously, if we are moving away from this style, then I think what you're looking at is not what would be presented next time. So it would probably at that point go to something that was more open, maybe with some columns or you know, some square rectangle openings. And I would recommend it either the front and the back or the front and the side, if not all three, depending on their need for storage and if we need some closets in there, because there's not enough space for that to be 2 car. It's just 1 car. So whatever space is left over, if we need it for storage, we may have to, you know, have a closet or some storage rooms in there that would block one of those openings. Does that make sense? But I would try to keep it as open as possible.
And are you trying to differentiate the left side addition by making a window that's totally different from the others? The large panes and all that?
The only thing that I was really trying to do there was to add the arch. I wouldn't focus too much on the divisions at this point,
Yep.
but I think y'all have answered the question about the arch. So I think we would have to, if we're pushing these wings back behind the front facade, obviously the addition's going to move more towards the back, and we probably would have to go to flat roofs. There's on the left side, on the second floor, the windows are just as large as the front, and we're trying to maintain those. And so that was another reason for bringing the wings forward, so that I could still get a little bit of a pitch behind there that didn't interfere with the windows. So it was really for some of the drainage. But
I have an idea. You know, this is unusual because we don't have many reference points for this style of architecture in Oxford. And whenever we talk about neighborhood continuity, like brought up Katrina's house, like how the house across the street's going to reference that. Could we have some, you know, assuming that you're going to go back and think more along the lines of Art Deco, some reference points, you know, like houses that aren't in Oxford necessarily, but maybe that would help us, you know,
for
see
the Art Deco style,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Okay. Yes, you mean for the next meeting?
Right,
Right. Yeah, we could do that. And will you also show the side elevation and make sure I didn't have any questions on the sides? Okay. Right. That's it. Go back one more, right there, yeah. Okay. I just wanted to look at that with y'all before we left to make sure we didn't have any questions about that side. So what we would have to do is to probably make, so the shaded part, that lower roof is what we're saying is the addition.
So that's your window.
Right, so that's where you can see the windows are coming below that. So that's where that whole side would probably be a flat roof with a little bit of a parapet wall. And so on the bottom floor, no arches. Is that correct? Even if we have a reference to Art Deco with an arch?
It would be my preference not to.
Okay, do y'all have any more questions? This gives us, you know, the right direction to go in for next month.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to add to help out on the next presentation.
So it's because of the addition that the little balcony window thing goes, right?
The balcony.
That's in the previous elevation?
Oh, yeah, because that's where the addition is.
So they weren't altering the existing house, they were building a house. Okay.
Did you have a question about the balcony?
No, I just asked where, I was comparing the two elevations from previous to what you proposed, and I just wondered where that element went, and it's because of the addition coming out. I was just looking for it, that's all.
Okay, well, I don't think I have any more questions unless y'all do.
We appreciate you coming.
Yeah.
Thank you for the advice.
Do you go by Amy or Amy Catherine?
Amy Catherine.
Catherine. It was nice meeting you.
You too. Thank you. Thank you. Is that it? We'll make our 6 o'clock date. I'm surprised. Exterior curves, right? Because it was the this house didn't have any of those.
Forgot my checkbook, I think that's what it's called. Forgot my checkbook.
Okay, does anybody have anything they'd like to add?
Would someone like to motion to adjourn?
Yes, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Everybody ready to adjourn, say aye. Aye. Adjourned.